So you've been experiencing betrayal trauma, and now you are in the process of navigating the disclosure and the healing process. And at some point in all of this, either your spouse or your pastor or a well-meaning counselor or therapist who doesn't understand suggests that you need to just give him a checklist. Just let him know, because he obviously can't figure out what's important to you. So you need to let him know what would make the most sense to you. What do you want for his behavior to change? What would that look like? Give him a checklist. Well, at first, this can sound like really good advice, because obviously if it's simply a failure to communicate and we're trying to figure out like, hey, I really want to meet your needs, I just help me understand what would be the most meaningful to you, then a checklist would make a lot of sense, right? But when you're dealing with betrayal trauma, when you're dealing with deeply entrenched deception and duplicitousness, when you're dealing with, as Dr. Omar Manwala calls it, a secret sexual basement, when you're dealing with someone who has been living a double life, who has been calculated in their ability and their attempts to keep you in the dark about all the myriad ways that they are betraying their vows to love, honor, cherish, protect, provide, and just to be there for you. A checklist just isn't enough, because you can pluck the fruit off the tree, but if you're not fixing the roots, what good is it going to do? And this leads us to a term that Cindy Burrell from Hurt by Love has coined, unless I think it's her term. So I'm going to give her credit for it. If Cindy, if you see this and it is not your term, let me know and I'll change it in the comments. But Cindy Burrell talks about checklist blackmail. Checklist blackmail is where you write the checklist and you're like, here, these are the things I would like for you to do. So maybe you say things like, I want you to help more around the home and be more involved as a father, and I want you to get counseling, and I want you to do these things. These are practical, tangible things. Well, see, if someone's heart is changing, those things will be happening voluntarily. If someone's heart is not changing, then they're very likely going to want to perform to a checklist. It's a very legalistic, works-oriented way of getting out of the actual transformation that is needed when you are dealing with deeply entrenched addiction and deception and disloyal, unfaithful behavior. So you give him the checklist and you say, here's the checklist. Let's start with counseling. So he says, okay, I'll start with counseling. And for the next 3 weeks, he goes to counseling. And then he says, you know what, that counselor just isn't working out for me. I don't like this part or that part or whatever. I think I'm going to take a break. It's just too much. Besides, it doesn't work because I've been spending so much time with the kids, I don't have time for counseling. And you're like, oh, well, how can I be mad at that? He needs to find the right fit, right? I wouldn't want him to go to a counselor that's not the right fit. And if he's having to take time away from the children, I also asked him to be more invested in the children. So if he has to choose between being present as a dad and going to counseling, I can understand how that would be a dilemma. And now he's checked off the box. I went to counseling. And I quit counseling because you said you wanted me to spend more time with the kids. So I spent more time with the kids. Why are you whining about this? And 6 months from now, when there's still the entitlement and still the controlling behaviors and still the refusal to be transparent and honest and still the missing money and still the time gaps and still the white lies and maybe even the bold, egregious, in-your-face lies, he can look back at the checklist and say, but I did what you asked. I went to counseling. I spent more time with the kids, and you're still not satisfied. Like, this clearly is your issue, your problem. You expect too much. I did all the things you ask and you are still not happy. So how can you blame me if I go watch porn again? I mean, I never do anything good enough for you anyway. And the heart has never changed. The entitlement, the control, the desire to keep that part of themselves put away in a box for their own secret gratification, that control, that unwillingness to live through radical truthfulness and humility and honesty and transparency and giving and generosity and sacrificial laying down of his life like Christ sacrificed himself for the church. That's not there. There's just a checklist. And once he's performed the checklist, if you still notice that the heart hasn't changed and you are still recognizing that things are not okay and this is not paradise, you become the bad guy, and that becomes checklist blackmail. Now, sometimes the checklist will be performed beautifully, and yet you still see other things happening. And what happens here is that the addiction, the controlling behavior, the self-gratification, the obsessive myopic entitlement has simply gone underground and sideways. And you are left trying to chase down gopher holes in your yard, trying to drown out the rats that are digging under the foundation of everything. And it's like playing whack-a-mole. You fill one up, you drown one tunnel out, and another one pops up here and here and here, and you never can seem to figure out why your yard keeps sinking and everything keeps settling further and further down, because the foundation is still riddled with tunnels. Because you're playing whack-a-mole with the addictions going underground and sideways and just popping up somewhere else. So maybe right now, the addiction isn't watching porn. Maybe it's cycling or working out or rock climbing or a different technology gadget or a new hobby or something else. But the behavior, the addictive disengagement, the detachment, it's still the same. The target of it has simply changed. Underground and sideways. Whack-a-mole. Whack-a-wolf, as one of my friends put it. I think that was Julie Royce. Anyway, now, the next question that I get is, okay, but if checklist blackmail is a thing, and I'm not supposed to give checklists, well, that doesn't mean you're not supposed to communicate expectations. So then the question is, how do I set healthy boundaries if I'm trying to avoid checklist blackmail? Well, there's two things to look at first. First of all, is your partner, the one who's been deceiving and hiding and lying and destroying the foundation of your relationship, is your partner even willing to address a checklist? Because if they're not willing to do the things or even attempt to do the things that you have asked for them to do, without at least demanding a series of checklists from you in return, without asking for certain aspects of entitlement, what do they get out of performing this checklist? If they're not willing to even try, then you have a whole different ballgame on your hands. You're dealing with someone who has absolutely no desire whatsoever to relinquish control and entitlement, even if they're very calm about it, even if they're very covert about it, even if they're very passive about it. If they're not even willing to address a checklist at all, and there's no follow through at all, you are dealing with potentially a more covert abuser who has the same amount of entitlement and control, and they're not willing to put the work in. Then you have the checklist blackmail. Hey, you gave me the checklist. I did it all. And you're still not satisfied, because what you want is for the heart to be transformed. And you cannot checklist a heart transformation. It just doesn't work that way. If someone truly wants to be whole, if they want your relationship to be healthy and vibrant and thriving, they are going to be willing to voluntarily offer all the things you might put on the checklist anyway. If they truly want to be healed, to become a safe spouse and partner, a safe father, a safe lover, a safe best friend, they will be banging the doors down on accountability, on spiritual support, on accessibility of their life to anyone who needs to be able to have that accessibility in order to show that they are truly who they say they are, doing what they say they are doing, with whom they say they are doing it at any given time of the day or night. If there is heart transformation, they will have no secrets. They will go above and beyond to show their transformation, not in words, not in promises, but in actions. And until you see that happening for an extended, humble, entitlement-free, control-free, tit-for-tat-free, lasting period of time, you have nothing to work with. Now, let's go back to that boundaries question. So if we are saying, hey, don't get yourself set up for checklist blackmail, then what about boundaries? Does that mean I don't set boundaries? Of course you do. Safely, wisely, setting boundaries is very, very different than the checklist. Here's why. The checklist is focused on his behavior. This is what I want you to do. That's the checklist. Boundaries are focused on mine. That means a checklist might be, I want you to stop watching porn. Okay. I want you to give me the password to your phone and let me check it twice a week. Well, first of all, that's never a good position for you to be in because you are not his mother and you are not his jailer or his warden. Don't put that on yourself. It's not going to get you anywhere but paranoid. But boundaries look like I choose to live in a home that is free of sexual deviance, pornography, and deceit. Therefore, I am choosing that this house, this space where I am, is going to be a zone that is free from that. If you choose to indulge in any of these things, I will no longer be here. Or you are free to move out. I will have the locks changed and you will find your suitcases on the front steps. Boundaries are about where my limits are. You can come this close to me and no further. I will remove myself from the situation. I will not tolerate this. Boundaries are my barriers, where my conscience extends out to the end of where I control my zone, my environment. I can't control anyone else's anything. If you choose to submit to the process of transformation and you choose to do all of the things necessary to show lasting, true, genuine humility over a long period of time, and I am able to trust that again, we can reassess my boundaries. But right now, this is where I stand. I can do no other. Kind of like Martin Luther. This is where my limits are. You may do what you like. I would love it if you choose to do things that are healthy and safe and pure and true and good. That's what I would like for you to do, but that is your choice. I respect your choice to choose evil or good. It is a free country. Me, this is what I'm doing. That's not at all the same as a checklist, because nobody can blackmail you on your limits for what you will live with, for your behavior, for your responses to them. So there's a big difference between insisting that someone else does a checklist and between setting healthy, safe, wise, well thought out, and stuck to, followed through boundaries for yourself. I hope this has made some things a little clearer. If you have questions, drop me a comment underneath. Definitely hit share if you hung out with me this long. Pass this on to someone else who needs to understand the difference between these two. And thank you for hanging out with me today. Tell me where you were. Where did you come from? Where were you watching from? Because I know we have audience in like 45 different countries, and I'd love to know where you joined us from today. Thanks for being here.